Peace and quiet. What the fuck is peace and quiet? What's peace and quiet? Don't learn. Don't try to get more intelligent. Don't study history. Don't study alternative histories. What about her story? What about peace and quiet? What about shutting the fuck up? Can you please shut your fucking mouth? If you don't have anything important to tell me, shut the fuck up. You ever look around and wonder, is everyone really this shallow, stupid, ignorant, and naive? Or is it just me? Or is it me? Have I become so twisted and warped that I no longer am able to empathize or even communicate with most of the human race? Do I alone feel this hatred for the assholes who run our lives, this disgust with the pink dupes? But then you see your fellow creative slack-seeking SubGenii being senselessly lynched in the alley, the media, workplace, schoolyard, market, and courts, and you realize, yes, it is me, and yes, I am a mutant, and yes, the pinks are all doomed, and most of all, I am not alone in this way of thinking. Things just didn't get this way. Not even humans could cause this much trouble by accident. It had to have been planned. It's a conspiracy. It is the conspiracy, but which conspiracy? Is it the people who assassinated JFK and MLK? Or is it the Masons? Or the Satanists? Is it the MJ-12 crashed UFO conspiracy? Or is it the Alternative 3 conspiracy? Is it the fluoride in the water? The Watergate burglars? The international Jewish bankers? What about those who killed Jimmy, Jonas, Jim, and JJ? And Paul? And John? And Kurt? Uncle Sam? Most of these can be tied to those in the basic CIA conspiracy. But what about the liberal media conspiracy? How is it that they're owned by Westinghouse and other parts of the conservative conspiracy? But then all the conspiracies are so interlocked and interwoven that when you start looking into one, you inevitably end up being sucked into another and another. One can endlessly explore the world of conspiracies, intricately detailing its works, mapping its eddies and flows, its secrets, subtle currents, its dangers. But one risks succumbing to its apparent friendliness and charm, for it contains within it so many infinitely varying conspiracies of fanatics that there's bound to be a conspiracy just for you to sink into forever. There are certainly plenty to go around. We've started hundreds of them ourselves, that being the Church of the SubGenius. Most of all these conspiracies you copy off of us. All of the conspiracies I'm talking about. Since the 50s. We've taken all of the mythologies and all of the folklores and stories of the Men in Black. And we've created tons of conspiracies ourselves. Yet none of these thousands of little conspiracies are nearly worthy of our grandiose, all-powering hate. They're not part of the very air we breathe, like the big conspiracy. The conspiracy that we truly hate, the real conspiracy, isn't one of those fiendishly clever ones. It doesn't even know it's a conspiracy. It can't. It's a faceless confederacy of dunces, so vast and so broad that it underlies all of the lesser conspiracy and permeates all human reality. Quite the opposite of devious, it dominates by merely exploiting the overall mealy-mouthed, chicken-butt-kissing code of normality, or con for short. Code of normality, con. Of all the pinks, the norm warms, the mere humies at large, but there is no more insidious and subtle a weapon than that conspiracy. This conspiracy has no face. We know it only by its desires. A great mirror of disfigurement. It reflects what's wrong with everyone. Politics and the petty squabbles of nations are only part of what the conspiracy manipulates. It is much bigger than gods and demons, Republicans and Democrats, presidents and interlocking corporate. It's everything from the school bully to the wimp principal, from your mother and your father to the Bobby in the woodpile. More than anything else, the conspiracy is an attitude, a fear, a pinkness, a cancer of the imagination, the hatred of the real, the yearning for cuteness, the eagerness to obey, the lack of true faith in Bob Dobbs. And I just keep getting distracted by all of these stupid, normal people. And they're your friends and your family and your loved ones. They just want to distract you from the things that you love doing. You want to increase your intelligence? Here, get distracted. Get distracted. Pinks everywhere. Fucking everywhere. The fish, the pentagram, and the black sun. Signs and symbols of cults, gangs, and secret societies. The Church of the SubGenius. Official website, www.subgenius. The Church of the SubGenius is a parody religion that satirizes better-known belief systems. It teaches a complex philosophy that focuses on J.R. Bob Dobbs, purportedly a salesman from the 1950s who is revered as a prophet by the Church. SubGenius leaders have developed detailed narratives about Dobbs and his relationships to various gods and conspiracies. Their central deity, Jehovah I, is accompanied by other gods drawn from ancient mythology and popular fiction. SubGenius literature describes a grand conspiracy that seeks to brainwash the world and oppress Dobbs' followers. In its narratives, the Church presents a blend of cultural references and an elaborate remix of the sources. Ivan Stang, who co-founded the Church of the SubGenius in the 70s, serves as its leader and publicist. He has imitated actions of other religious leaders, using the tactic of culture jamming in an attempt to undermine better-known faiths. Church leaders instruct their fellow followers to avoid mainstream commercialism and belief in absolute truths. The group holds that the quality of slack is of utmost importance. It is never clearly defined. The number of followers is unknown, although the Church's message has been welcomed by college students and artists in the United States and in the UK and London. The group is often compared to Discordianism. Journalists often consider the Church to be an elaborate joke, but a few academics have defended it as an honest system of deeply held beliefs. The Church of the SubGenius is founded by Ivan Stang, born Douglas St. Clair Smith, and Philo Drummond, born Steve Wilcox. As the SubGenius Foundation, Dr. X was also present in the group's inception. The organization's first recorded activity was the publication of a photocopied document known as the SubGenius Pamphlet No. 1, disseminated in Dallas, Texas, 1979. The document announced the impending end of the world and the possible deaths of its readers. It criticized Christian conceptions of God and New Age perceptions of spirituality. Church leaders maintain that a man named J.R. Bob Dobbs founded the group in 1953. SubGenius members constructed an elaborate account of the life of Dobbs, which is described by commentators as fictional. Well, only anti-Bobs would say that J.R. Bob Dobbs is fictional. They assert that he telepathically contacted Drummond in 1972 before meeting him in person the next year, and that Drummond persuaded Ivan Stang to join shortly afterwards. Stang describes himself as the sacred scribe of Dobbs and professional maven of weirdness. All right, so I'm going to go through the beliefs of the Church of the SubGenius. The Church of the SubGenius ostensible beliefs defy categorization or a simple narrative, often striking outside observers as bizarre and convoluted. The group has developed an intricate mythology involving gods, aliens, and mutants, which is usually considered by observers to satirize other religions. Their primary deity, generally known as Jehovah 1, is cast as an extraterrestrial who contacted Dobbs in the 1950s. Various accounts state that the encounter occurred while Dobbs was building a television or watching late-night television. Jehovah 1 gave him supernatural knowledge of the past and future, in addition to incredible power. Dobbs then posed deep questions to the alien, receiving mysterious answers. Some of their discussions centered on a powerful conspiracy to which the church attributes command of the world. Jehovah 1 and his spouse, Eris, regarded by the church as relatively evil, are classed as rebel gods. SubGenius leaders note that Jehovah 1 is wrathful, a quality expressed by his stark fist of removal. The church teaches that they are part of the elder gods, who are committed to human pain, but that Jehovah 1 is relatively good in comparison to Yog-Sothoth, a character from H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, is the leader of the elder gods. In her 2010 case study of the Church of the SubGenius, religious scholar Carol Cusack of the University of Sydney states that Lovecraft's work is a model for the Church of the SubGenius's approach to scripture, and that aspects of his fiction were treated as real by some within paganism, just as the church appropriates aspects of popular culture in its spirituality. J.R. Bob Dobbs. SubGenius leaders teach that Dobbs's nature is ineffable and consequently stylize his name with quotation marks. They cast him as a world avatar and hold that he has died and been reborn many times. The church's primary symbol is an icon of his face in which he smokes a pipe. Stang states that the image was taken from Yellow Pages clip art and that has been likened to Ward Cleaver, Mark Trail, or a 1950s era salesman. The church's canon contains references to aspects of the culture of the United States in that decade. Religious scholar Daniel Kirby of RMIT University argues that this type of reference simultaneously critiques and subverts the concept of the American dream. In the church's mythology, Jehovah 1 had intended for Dobbs to lead a powerful conspiracy to brainwash individuals to make them work for a living. Dobbs refused to support the group. Instead, he infiltrated it and organized a counter-movement. Church leaders teach that he was a very intelligent child, and as he grew older, studied several religious traditions, including Sufism, Rosicrucianism, and the Fourth Way. Another key event in his life occurred when he traveled to Tibet. There, he learned the vital truths about topics including Yetis. The church teaches that Yetis exist and that SubGenius members have descended from them. Shout out to Karen B. The only relative of Dobbs that the church identifies in is his mother. The only relative of Dobbs that the church identifies is his mother, Jane McBride Dobbs. Church leaders cite his lack of resemblance to his mother's husband as the reason for not revealing his father. Dobbs is married to a woman named Connie. The SubGenius leaders identify the couple as archetypes of the genders in a belief that resembles Hindu doctrines about Shiva and Parvati. Church Literature has variously described Dobbs's occupation as drilling equipment or fluoride salesman, and accounts of his life generally emphasize his good fortune rather than intelligence. SubGenius leaders believe that he is capable of time travel and that this ability results in occasional changes to doctrine, deemed the sacred doctrine of erasability by the church. Consequently, members attempt to follow Dobbs by eschewing unchangeable plans. One sec, I need a sip of coffee. The Church of the SubGenius's literature incorporates many aspects of conspiracy theories, teaching that there is a grand conspiracy at the root of all of the lesser ones. It records that there are many UFOs, most of which are used by the conspiracy leaders to monitor humans, although a few contain extraterrestrials. In the Church's view, this conspiracy uses a facade of empowering messages but manipulates people so that they become indoctrinated to its service. The Church refers to these individuals as pinks and states that they are blissfully unaware of the organization's power and control. SubGenius leaders teach that most cultural and religious mores are a conspiracy's propaganda. They maintain that their followers, but not the pinks, are capable of developing an imagination. The Church teaches that Dobbs has empowered its members to see through these illusions. Owing to their descent from Yetis, the Church's followers have a capacity for deep understanding that the pinks lack. Cultural studies scholar Solomon Davidoff states that the Church develops a satiric commentary on religion, morality, and conspiracies. SubGenius members believe that those in the service of the conspiracy seek to bar them from slack, a quality promoted by the Church. Its teachings center on slack, always capitalized, which is never concisely defined except in the claim that Dobbs embodies the quality. Church members seek to acquire slack and believe that it will allow them the free, comfortable life without hard work or responsibility, which they claim as an entitlement. Sex and the avoidance of work are taught as the two key ways to gain slack. Davidoff believes that slack is the ability to effortlessly achieve your goals. Cusack states that the Church's description of slack as ineffable recalls the way that Tao is described, and Kirby casts Slack as a unique magical system. The Slackware Linux distribution is also named after the. Oh yeah, that's true. The Church of the SubGenius founders were based in Dallas when they distributed their first document. The SubGenius Foundation moved to Cleveland, Ohio in 1999. In 2009, Stang claimed that the church had 40,000 members, but the actual number may have been much lower. It's definitely much higher. As of 2012, becoming a minister of the church consists of paying $35 fee. Stang has estimated that there are 10,000 ministers and that the church's annual income has reached over $100,000. Most SubGenius members are male, and according to Stang, many of them are social outcasts. He maintains that those who do not fit into society will ultimately triumph over those who do. The church has experienced success converting college students, particularly at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It has also gained popularity in several American cities, including San Francisco, Little Rock, and Cleveland. A few church members have voiced concerns and/or amusement about new members who took the church too seriously, fearing that they acted like serious cult followers, the very concept that the SubGenius parodies. Stang has expressed concern that the church's doctrines could exacerbate pre-existing psychoses of mentally ill devotees, although he believes that the church genuinely helps many adherents. Notable associates of the church include Mark Mothersbaugh, that's the Devo lead singer, Mojo Nixon, Paul Mavroidis, Paul Rubens, member of Negativland, David Bryan, R. Crumb, a cartoonist, provided early publicity for the church by reprinting SubGenius pamphlet #1 in his Conflicts anthology Weirdo. References to the church are present in several works of art, including the internet-based collaborative fiction Og's Hat, the comic book The Middleman, the band Sublime's 40 Ounces to Freedom, which is the very first album I ever bought in my life, and it had J.R. Bob Dobbs in it. Is that coincidence? I think not. J.R. Bob Dobbs knew that I was a flat earth subgenius. Pee Wee Herman is a subgenius. He still owes us like $25 though. $20 actually. Church leaders have issued specific instructions to their followers. Robert Latham of the University of California, Riverside cast their ideology as anarcho-libertarianism. 5 specific commands particularly embody the group's values. The first command is to shun regular employment and stop working. This encapsulates the church's view that to repent and to slack off is in opposition to the idea of working for a living. SubGenius leaders state that it is permissible for members to collect public assistance in lieu of maintaining employment. The second command is to purchase products that are sold by the church, which its leaders teach was founded by Dobbs to gain wealth. Unlike most religious groups, the church proudly admits it is for profit, presumably mocking some religious groups that may seem to have ulterior financial motives. Cusack sees the instruction to buy as an ironic parody of the greed is good mentality of the 1980s, and Kirby notes that although the group emphasizes the consumption of popular cultural artifacts, this consumption is simultaneously de-emphasized by the processes of remix. The third command is to rebel against law and order. Specifically, the church condemns security cameras and encourages computer hacking. Cusack notes that this instruction recalls Robert Anton Wilson's critique of Law and Order. The fourth command is to rid the world of everyone who did not descend from Yetis. SubGenius leaders teach that Dobbs hopes to rid the Earth of 90% of humanity, making the Earth clear. The group praises drug abuse and abortion as effective methods of calling unneeded individuals. Wow. Disclaimer. The SubGenius's beliefs, the Church of the SubGenius's ideologies, beliefs, and certain things that they promote does not represent what I, Flat Earth SubGenius, promote. In fact, the Church of the SubGenius itself is a part of the conspiracy and is directly linked to the globalists and the globeheads and the pinks that fight against the Flat Earth SubGeniuses that are listening right now. The fifth command is to exploit fear, specifically that of individuals who are part of the conspiracy. Church leaders teach that members of the conspiracy fear SubGenius devotees. Well, isn't that interesting? Local groups of members of the Church of the SubGenius are known as clenches. They host periodic events known as devivals, which include sermons, music, and other art forms. Their leaders take comical names and give angry rants, and many devivals occur in bars or similar venues. Cusack compares the style of the services to Pentecostal revivalism. David Geifels of the Akron Beacon Journal cast them as campy preaching sessions. Cusack posits that these events are examples of Peter Laybourne Wilson's concept of temporary autonomous zones, spaces in which the ordinary constraints of social control are suspended. Oh, that's fucking amazing. On one occasion, the presence of the wife of the church leader at a SubGenius meeting that included public nudity and a goat costume contributed to her losing custody of her children in a court case. I remember that. However, the publicity surrounding the event was ultimately a boon to the church's recruitment efforts. The church also celebrates several holidays in honor of characters drawn from fiction and popular culture, such as Monty Python, Dracula, and Plato. The Association for Consciousness Exploration and pagan groups have occasionally assisted the church in its events. Some SubGenius members put little emphasis on meetings, citing the church's focus on individualism, although the book of the SubGenius discusses community. The Church of the SubGenius has held devivals in multiple states within the continental United States, as well as different countries, including China, the Netherlands, Germany, London, UK. The church has also held devivals at non-SubGenius events such as Burning Man and the Starwood Festival. The Church of the SubGenius has a relationship with the Association for Consciousness Exploration, which hosts the Starwood Festival in Pomeroy, Ohio. SubGenius members have access to discounted tickets for the Association for Consciousness Exploration annual festival. Oh, that's pretty badass. X Day. In early SubGenius literature, July 5th, 1998 was introduced as a significant date, later becoming known as X Day. The church held that Dobbs identified the date's significance in the 1950s, claiming that the world was to experience a massive change on that date when Exus, beings from planet X, would arrive on Earth. SubGenius leaders declared that their paying members were to be transported onto spaceships for a union with goddesses as the world was destroyed, although a few posited that they would be sent to a joyful hell. In anticipation of the event, X-Day drills were held in 1997, 1996, 1997. In July 1998, the church held a large devival at a clothing optional campground in Sherman, New York, attended by about 400 members. The event was ostensibly intended to celebrate the coming of aliens. When their appearance was not detected using the technology available at that time, Stang speculated that they might arrive in 8661, an inversion of 1998. This has been interpreted as a satire of the way that religious groups have revised prophecies after their failures. Some critics have dismissed the event as a prank or form of performance art. Steve Bilavekwa, the church's business manager, admitted that his group made strange predictions about aliens, but contended that their statements were as believable as the account of Jesus walking on water. Another theory is that the conspiracy has lied about what year the present year actually is, just as they have lied about everything else, so that the liberation date would seem to pass without fulfillment and cause followers to lose faith. As a precaution, SubGenius members can continue to gather for X Day every July 5th after 1998, and we just had another one. At these events, the non-appearance of the aliens is celebrated. Cusack casts the productions as carnivalesque or an echo of ancient Greek satyr plays. The Church of the SubGenius established a website in May 1993, and its members were very active on Usenet in the 1990s. Although it has gained a significant online presence, it was successful before the advent of internet communities. The church was a pioneer in the religious use of signs. Cusack notes that its use of the medium can be seen as a rejection of the alienation of labor practices. The SubGenius Foundation has published several official teachings as well as non-doctrinal works by Stang. The Book of the SubGenius, which discusses Slack at length, was published by Sermon & Schuster and sold 30,000 copies in its first 5 years of print. Kirby cast the book as a call to arms for the forces of absurdity. The juxtaposition, visual style, and content of the book mirror the group as a whole. It draws themes from fiction as well as established and new religions, parodying a number of topics, including the Church of the SubGenius itself. The number of SubGenius writers have authored stories to build their mythology, which have been compiled and published. Their core texts are disordered, presented in the style of a collage. Kirby notes that the group's texts are a wide collage of cultural artifacts, which is then remixed into a new creation. In this process, Kirby argues that they interweave and juxtapose a variety of concepts, which she describes as a web of references. The video has also been promoted by radio. The Church of the SubGenius holds several radio shows throughout the world, including broadcasters in Atlanta, Ohio, Maryland, California. The Hour of Slack, the Church's most popular audio production, is broadcast by several radio stations in the United States and 2 in Canada. The Church's teachings are often perceived as satirizing Christianity and Scientology, earning them a reputation as a parody religion. Church leaders have stated that Dobbs met L. Ron Hubbard, and SubGenius narratives echo extraterrestrial themes found in Scientology. Cusack notes that descriptions of Jehovah 1 bear noticeable similarities to Xenu, a powerful alien found in some Scientologist writings. The Church's rhetoric has also been seen as a satirical imitation of the televangelism of the 1980s. Cusack sees the Church's Fox commercialism as culture jamming, targeting prosperity theology. She describes this as a strikingly original innovation in contemporary religion. Religious scholar Thomas Alberts of the University of London views the Church as attempting to subvert the idea of authenticity in religion by mirroring other religions to create both a sense of similarity and alterity. Jesus. Cusack compares the Church of the SubGenius to the Ranters, a radical 17th century pantheist movement in England. She notes that they made statements that shocked many hearers, attacking traditional notions of religious orthodoxy and political authority. In her view, this demonstrates that the Church of the SubGenius has legitimate pedigree in the history of Western religion. The American journalist Michael Muhammad Knight likens the Church to the Morist Orthodox Church of America, a 20th century American syncretic religious movement, citing their shared emphasis on freedom. There are a number of similarities between the Church of the SubGenius and Discordianism, our brother religion. Eris, the goddess of chaos, is worshipped by adherents of the religion of Discordianism, is believed by members of the Church of the SubGenius to be the wife of Jehovah 1 and an ally to humans. Okay, so Eris is the wife of Jehovah 1, not J.R. Bob Dobbs. Okay. I was a little concerned that J.R. Bob Dobbs was taking Connie Dobbs for granted. But Jehovah 1 is married to Eris. So, hail Eris, my bad. Like Discordianism, the Church of the SubGenius rejects absolute truth and embraces contradiction and paradoxes. Exactly! Of course you're supposed to embrace contradiction and paradoxes, you fucking pussies. Such fucking little bitch, politically correct pussies, scared to contradict yourself. You're a fucking fraud and a fake. Religious scholar David Cheister of the University of Cape Town views the Church a Discordian offshoot, and Kirby sees them as a child of the Discordians. Both groups were heavily influenced by the writings of Robert Anton Wilson, who is referred to by SubGenius members as Pope Bob. Kirby states that the two groups have elements of bricolage and absurdity in common, but the Church of the SubGenius more explicitly remixes pop culture. Scholars often have difficulty defining the church. Most commentators have placed the church in the category of joke religions, which is usually seen as a pejorative description. Kirby sees this categorization as partially accurate because irony is an essential aspect of their faith. Other terms used to describe the church include fox cult, postmodern cult, satirical pseudo-religion, sophisticated joke religion, anti-religion religion, and high parody of cultdom. Members of the church, however, have consistently maintained that they practice a religion. Stang has described the group as both satire and a really stupid religion, and he contends that it is more honest about its nature than all of the other religions. Cusack states that the church must be accorded the status of a functional equivalent of religion, at the very least, if not authentic religion. She sees that it as arguably a legitimate path to liberation, citing its culture jamming and activism against commercialism. Kirby posits that the church is a religion masquerading as a joke rather than the reverse. In her view, it is a spiritual manifestation of a cultural shift towards irony. Alberts believes that there is broad agreement that the church is fundamentally a different type of group than religions that date to antiquity. He prefers to use the term fake religion to describe the group. He sees it, along with Discordianism, as part of a group of popular movements that look and feel like religion, but whose apparent excess, irreverence, and arbitrariness seem to mock religion. Knight characterizes the church as at once a postmodern spoof of religion and a viable system in its own right. Kirby argues that the church forms a counterpart to Jean Baudrillard's concept of hyper-reality, arguing they create rather than consume popular culture in the practice of their spirituality. She describes their remixing of popular culture sources as an explicitly creative process, maintaining that it prompts the reader to adapt some of the group's views by forcing the individual to consider normative methods of approaching the content. She states that the group's attempts to strip references of their original meaning without necessarily losing their status as icons. In addition, Kirby sees the church's goal as deconstructing normative modes of thought and behavior. In American culture, she believes that it attempts to fight culturally ingrained thought patterns by shocking people. She argues that traditional approaches to religion cast seriousness as a measure of devotion, an approach which she believes has failed in contemporary society. She feels that irony is a common value and has been ignored by most religions. By embracing the quality, she maintains, the Church of the SubGenius offers a more accessible worldview than many groups. Literature scholar Paul Mann of Pomona College is critical of the Church of the SubGenius. He notes that the Church purports to present the truth through absurdity and faults it for insufficiently examining the concept of truth itself. In addition, he believes that the group undermines its attempts to take radical perspective by their hysterical, literal, fantastic embrace of criticism. Anarchist writer Bob Black, a former member, has criticized the church, alleging that the group has come to be characterized by conformism and submission to authority. He believes that although it initially served to satirize cults, it later took on some of their aspects. In 1992, allegations of cult-like behavior also appeared in the newspaper Bedfordshire on Sunday after a spat of SubGenius-themed vandalism struck the English town of Bedford. Here are the publications: the SubGenius Foundation, the Book of the SubGenius, High Weirdness by Mail, The Three-Fisted Tales by Bob, Revelation X, I'm reading this book right now. I have every single one of these books. I have this book. This is a good one. You're going to want to watch that. Here's some notes. I don't know what the fuck these notes are for. Here's some references. Oh, cool. Cool. Here's the references of the Church of the SubGenius. I'll have to check this out. That's pretty badass. So we got Stupid Undergrounds. Oh, that's pretty badass. 2012. Hmm. Interesting. Wow. It's a lot of stuff. Nice. Oh, wow. Robert Anton Wilson wrote about it in 2007, and that's the year that he died. He wrote about it right before he died. I mean, he always wrote about the Church of the SubGenius in a lot of his books. Wow, this is awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to read the Discordian Society, this one too, right here. I hope you enjoyed that. I gave you free Slack. Easy. Pink bastards. Interesting that they say the fish, the pentagram, and the black sun. Damn. I'm going to show you a cool video in a second here. I'll do this one next. I'll read this one next. So I'll do another hangout on this one, the Discordian Society. So I'll do a whole nother hangout on this one. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll do that on its own. Joe Rogan and him were having a flat earth discussion. First time flux across well, Eric Dubé versus Neil deGrasse Tyson. That would destroy the internet. I'm going to show you some video of some really interesting video here that you will definitely enjoy. And I really appreciate it if you push the like button and the share button.
All we need is an hour slack. We don't have no time for that. All we want is an hour slack. Do you know where it's at? All you need is an hour slack. Everyone needs a string jacket. Let's all slack it. Everyone needs a string jacket. One more time, let's all slack it.
Church headquarters, the first Megaphist Temple Lodge, is housed in this Dallas skyscraper, from which Dobbs' secret mandates are issued to his agents in the dreaded Brotherhood of Bob. But this mighty edifice represents but the tip of a wandering rogue iceberg. The words, hymns, and sound effects of Dobbs are disseminated on a weekly basis to thousands of devout radio listeners in most major cities, even as far away as China and darkest Africa.
This show is so popular that we're studying it from all angles. You can even watch this show on Channel A. And right now, I'll play some of my planet. The SubGeniuses in China have to listen on shortwave radio. It's very hard. You'll notice we've switched to studio music for the background for this segment of the show. As the psychic segment of the show is for 24 hours light as by a small nuclear explosion. All better now. Christians are tuning in. Yeah, did you ever stop to think that this show just may be a little show inside a larger show? Wrapped inside somehow is inside an even larger show?
Spectacular, lucrative, spiritual, SubGenius revivalism. And there's even a line of casual SubGenius wear to fit every size.
Gonna just tell Bob Dobbs is gonna burn in hell.
And Bob offers a guarantee that can't be beaten. Eternal salvation, or triple your money. Bob.
You know, something told me that guy's crooked. What do you say? Let's fuck him off.
None for me, pal.
You gave him his source of power back, bruh. You can't give Bob his pipe. You get all the power in the world. I'm just refreshing this real quick.
Although scientific evidence seems to indicate that Mars is a cold, desolate world, many scientists today speculate on what the planet might be like if conditions were somewhat different. With a little more water and oxygen than expected, there could be an astonishing array of life on Mars. A totally different sequence of living things following its own pattern of evolution. There may be plant life that migrates in search of richer soil. There may be plants that feed on other plants. Or even plants that feed on themselves. And if animal life has developed on Mars, it too may have taken many new and unexpected forms. There could be animals with heavy insulation to conserve body heat in the sub-freezing night. Or perhaps the bitter surface conditions have driven some life underground to develop in a dark, mysterious environment. If it is true that there are dust storms on Mars, life could have evolved ways of protecting itself. On the other hand, there might be creatures that actually thrive on the ever-present dust. Some organisms working with powerful digestive acids may be able to feed directly on minerals in the rocks, leaving a fantastic Martian sculpture in their wake. If in the thin Martian air there are creatures that fly, their wings of necessity must be 4 times as large as those on Earth. However, flight may be achieved by other means. On Mars, even as on Earth, life would surely be a competitive struggle for survival. There might be fantastic hunters who kill by concentrating the heat of the sun on their victims. Devastating creatures that envelop their quarry in shrouds of poisonous gas. Or maybe ominous ultrasonic beings who shatter their prey with high-frequency sound waves. It is possible that entirely new chemical patterns of life may have developed on Mars. Life based on the silicon atom instead of carbon would be more resistant to the extreme cold, providing a whole new range of weird forms. Feeding on the drifting sand, tall crystal spires may grow to maturity in a single day, to be shattered in a crescendo of destruction during the cold Martian night. Just as it is impossible to conceive an intelligent life totally different from our own, so we may find our earth-trained minds unable to comprehend the weird phenomena that could exist on this strange new planet.
Where might come too long?
For a number of years now, work has been proceeding in order to bring perfection to the crudely conceived idea of a transmission that would not only supply inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal grameters. Such an instrument is the turboencapulator. Now, basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it is produced by the modial interaction of magnetoreluctance and capacitive reactance. The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panametric fan. The latter consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes so fitted to the ambipatient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus O delta type placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the grammys. The turboencapulator has now reached a high level of development, and it's being successfully used in the operation of nopertrunnions. Moreover, whenever a fluorescent score motion is required, it may also be employed in conjunction with a drawn reciprocation dingle arm to reduce sinusoidal repleneration. It's not cheap, but I'm sure the government will buy it.
Back to get slack.
Anti-Bobbies. These are the Bobbies. Bunch of like fake Bob lovers. But still, they're Londoners, so maybe I'm wrong. These people that I'm about to show you. This is the last thing I'm going to show. It's about a little bit less than 10 minutes. It's pretty funny. J.R. Bob Dobbs infiltrating UK and London.
The definition of the Church of the SubGenius is eternal salvation on this planet or hell. Either you choose the Church of the SubGenius or you choose eternal damnation.
Amen. 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 Sing it over. Amen. Amen.
This is Carly, a musician and the high priestess of the Church of the SubGenius, a bizarre new cult infiltrating into the UK. Carly is on her way to meet 2 of the most important members of her religion to rehearse for a sermon later that evening.
I do believe that
The whole of London is feeling the Bob vibe. Bob is with us. Bob is glad. Quite simply, Bob is glad.
J.R. Bob Dobbs is the high pot of the Church of SubGenius. He's the great master salesman who was made enlightened by a space alien, Jehovah 1, in 1953 after working on a television set of his own design. And the Jehovah 1 came down and he snatched Bob up into the ether of space and gave him enlightenment and showed him that he was the true prophet of the Church of the SubGenius and that he should create a church in his name and bring total slack to all potential subgeniuses that live on this planet. The ideology behind the church is slack. Every subgenius minister wants to obtain the highest level of slack he can, or she can, and live a totally slack life. This means that you probably do not work. As the Reverend Ivan saying would say, you live a life of creative sloth. The Church of the SubGenius has changed many members' lives. I've met people who came to me and said, Coach Black, tell me more about Bob. Tell me how to join the Church of the SubGenius. I have a horrible life. I've worked. I have a job. I have a dead-end job. I hate my boss. I'm very unhappy. And the Church of the SubGenius shows them the way. They quit their job. They quit their job for Bob. And then they go and do something that they enjoy that makes their lives rich. And that's what the Church of the SubGenius is all about. It's not about being lazy. It's about doing what you want to do that makes you happy.
Praise Bob.
Praise
Hallelujah.
Praise God.
Praise
Amen.
Bob.
Praise God.
Praise Bob.
After I joined the church, I found that I was drawn to do more creative things for Bob to help recruit souls for a massive exodus on this planet, which, as you know, will be any day now in July 5th. So, for instance, I've been writing books and recording sermons, I've been writing songs, all this for Bob, because the more we can create slack in the world, the sooner we get to go off into bliss and stuff.
Dear God, dear Bob.
The Church of the SubGenius believe the world as we know it will come to an end on July the 5th, 2007. We were invited to join you in a ceremony to worship God in preparation for this mass exodus. A few weeks later, we called on Reverend Adam, and he agreed to talk to us from his home about his life within the Church of the SubGenius.
I preach the bread is over and glad in the Church of the SubGenius. When people first find out that I'm in the Church of the SubGenius, they're usually full of questions, and by about the third answer, they all look at me a bit strange and think I'm strange. I can tell by the look in their eyes that they think I'm a bit mad. But then I look at their eyes and I can see that they have an invisible friend who lives in the sky. So, you know, who's mad? When the Christians have their revivals all over the country, we can see the slack sinking into the ground, disappearing from the entire country. And so we have to undo their revival work by putting on revivals, fighting against it. We have some bands, we have some preaching, we have some jokes and some laughter, and most of all, we have slack.
We attended our first SubGenius revival, an event including bands, dancing, and prayer. The highlight being a sermon by Pope Black, preaching about the conspiracy that supposedly controls us.
Live to their dark, smoky room with lots of high-up businessmen in suits making little deals here and little deals there, and controlling people live to their tentacles of power. But really, the conspiracy is you, and it's every single damn normal person on this planet. Every ordinary worm who lives on this planet is part of the conspiracy, just by the code of normality that they produce. You might have noticed that the conspiracy tells us 1998 is already passed. Conspiracy has been fixing the calendar throughout the entire age of mankind's existence on this planet. They've been fixing it here and fixing it there. I think it's probably 1998 now, and that this July the world will end. Aliens are going to come and free the world of the conspiracy and take up the SubGenius off into the sky to live with their love goddesses on their very own UFO.
Pope Black took us around London to show us more about the world of Bob Dobbs. He informed us that Bob had become a famous clip art icon and very popular in underground pop culture.
He evolved into this figure, this clip art figure. Bob is the perfect marketing staff, and anybody's allowed to use it. This is where the magic happens.
He ended the evening at a SubGenius spot, where the Pope claimed his duty was to recruit more members.
And I know about Bob and the rule of slash, whatever it is.
All I know is I'm fucking enjoying it, and I'm not enjoying it.
2 years ago, Priestess Carly had a vision of Bob, who told her to form a band and spread his word. She immediately left her husband and a highly paid job to tour the world promoting the church as a SubGenius. Bob said, go to Kate. Go to Channel 5.
This bitch is fucking insane.
Go to Sony. Go to the government. Go to the Arts Council of every goddamn nation and spread the word of God.
This bitch is fucking crazy. She looks like a man. It's probably a transsexual.
You can be an emperor. I'm a high priestess. What else could I be? After spending so much time with Reverend Adam, Priestess Carly, and Pope Black, we wanted to end our journey with them by finding out how Bob had changed their lives.
Before I joined the church, I was going nowhere with my life. And I would probably have ended up in some dead-end job with a shotgun in my mouth and my toe on the trigger.
It was probably the most miserable time in my life.
There was nothing for me except working, cooking, eating, fucking, sleeping, drinking. There was nothing that really made sense to me.
Since I found Bob, it has opened up an entirely new world for me.
Bob has taken over my whole life in a good way. Because now I'm busy, I'm happy. My band
Yeah, that's a man.
is my life.
That's a man. That's a man.
Well, that's gone up and an upward spiral. It's lifted me out of whatever depression I used to suffer years before. Now my life is the most incredible adventure.
There's only one way to salvation. All you have to do is pay $30 to the Church of SubGenius by
35.
2007, or else you'll fry in hell with the rest of them.
And that'll do it. Praise Bob.